What's up, guys? So I want to talk about MBTI compatibility today. Few facts to consider. First, there's no such thing as intertype relations theory with an MBTI. So that means everything you see on the internet, people coming around and making their theories, it is purely subjective opinion based on nothing. There's no methodology there. Nothing. Not only that, though, those people who probably tell you that are mistyped. Belong on Reddit. That's where the LARPers are at. Reddit. So it doesn't mean anything. There's no such thing. So how can we actually determine the type if MBTI you can't? How? Well, there is another system called socionics, which, by the way, you probably should learn because it's a good system. And there actually is official intertype relations theory. It has multiple relations, multiple dynamics, very clearly explained how they work and what basis. Now, another thing, just because there's a difference between compatibility and attraction. I don't want to hear anyone, like, I know how I've heard those things before. People be like, well, actually, I have Brad Pitt poster and I daydream about slurping him all day long. But my boyfriend is a nerd and I actually really get along with him because he's such a goofy nerd. I love him. We get along perfectly. So, yeah. And that's like, what are you talking about? That's the difference between attraction and compatibility. Compatibility simply means something works. You trying to slurp someone, or you thinking some people you might find attractive doesn't mean much. Okay, it simply doesn't. Now, does that mean there is no overlap between both? No, but I would never use that as a method of typing. Well, this person likes those types of people. Sure, she might maybe, or he might like those types of people, but that doesn't mean those types of people are actually good objectively for this individual. So that's it. Now, what we're gonna do is pretty simple. I'm gonna present every type as the most typical representation of the type, most archetypal. I'm going to link it to socionics. So if I say INTJ, it does not mean an INTJ who is a charmer. Because I've seen people like, I'm an INTJ, I'm really good with people. Yes, and you're also on Reddit. That's good. So, yes, I mean typical. Archetype, basic. That's all I mean. I don't mean anything crazy. Just the most typical representation of the type. Classic. Let's get into it. So, first we got ENTJ, and the most classical, most typical ENTJ is going to be 3-core. And yes, ENTJ 8 does not exist. So stop grinding my gears. Stop LARPing. Gross. So ENTJ 3, and that your most compatible type would be ISFJ 1. Okay, so ISFJ 1 is going to be your most compatible type. And this is LIE and ESI compatibility, duality. Now, a little disclaimer before we go further. Remember, this does not mean that there's only one compatible type. Every MBTI type can have multiple socionics type. So it's not the MBTI, it's about your socionics type. And there are so many different possibilities. It's just too many. So let's just make the typical and that's it. Make the focus on the archetypal. Then we got INTJ. Average INTJ is going to be a 5-core, and plot twist, their most compatible partner is going to be ESFJ, either SP2 or SO9. Yep, and this is an example of LII and ESC duality. Now, INFJ. The most typical ISFJ is going to be SP6, right? And it actually works best with ESTJ SP3. Okay, so this is an example of EII and LSE duality. Again, remember, this is not a blueprint for all types. Just because you don't match it doesn't mean it isn't, that's how it is. Depends on your socionics type. And I wish MBTI people would understand that. But, we do what we must, right? We do what we must. So next is ENFJ. I would say that archetypal ENFJ probably is going to be like an SO2, and their most compatible partner is going to be something like an ISTJ, either ISTJ 1 or 6. Either way, it's fine. It is fine. So then we got ENTP, and ENTP 7 is going to be the most. Oh, sorry. So that previous one was EIE and LSI duality. Okay. Then we got ENTP 7 as the most typical, and he is going to be a shocker. Don't get PTSD'd. ISFP 9 core. Yep. Yeah, I know you creaming. I know it's PTSD. You can't take it. You are shocked by it. You can't process it. Everything you've learned from those people has now, it's been destroyed. I'm questioning your beliefs. I'm questioning your values. Everything, everything you've learned from Love Who and Frankie Jamies. Everything from those individuals. I know, but that's what we're doing here. So, that was ILE and SCI duality. Okay. Next we got INTP, and with an INTP, probably gonna be SP5 as the most typical, and your most compatible type should be ESFP, either sexual 2 or sexual 8. Pick one. I mean, damn. And this is ILI and SEE duality. Now, to ENFP, the most typical ENFP as we know it in MBTI is the 7 core, right? ENFP 7. That's the typical, that's the archetypal. Yes, and in this case, it's going to be your most compatible partner. It's going to be ISTP 9. Indeed. And this is an example of IEE and SLI duality. Then we got INFP. And with an INFP, your most the most typical is going to be INFP 4, right? I mean, that's a very classical type. And then it's most ideal would be ESTP 8. And this is an example of IEI and SLE duality. So as you can see, there is a bit of a those types do overlap. There's a lot of overlap. And you might be like, well, isn't that Pyongyang? Wait, isn't that Pyongyang? And just because there is some overlap, that doesn't mean that's kind of how it works. As you see, as you can see, that actually INTJ is an LII in my example, so it doesn't really work that way, right? Plus, there are multiple different variations of those combinations. So maybe at some point we need to go in depth, like really in depth, and write down 5-6 combinations to allow people for like easier time. But this is the most typical, this is the most archetypal compatibility chart. Okay, you will not find this anywhere else. I mean, that is the truth. That is the truth. That is the fact of the matter. So next video, probably gonna do psychosophy, probably we need to finish physics. Yeah, that's a painful placement for some, so prepare for that, right? Anyway, ciao.